think when a lot of us start this journey into Norse paganism, we become very obsessed with the runes, and I think it's easy to see why. They are everywhere, on every form of media, on every social media post. You start seeing them in the trees, you start seeing them on your jewelry and things like that. And I think not too long after being on this path, you soon realize how complicated the runes are. And I know this is true for me, and not just complicated in the sense that they're difficult to use, difficult to master, difficult to research, but also complicated in their history, because we really do not know if the ancestors used the runes for divination. I mean, we know the Elder Futhark and the Younger Futhark were used, and we know that the Germanic people used some form of divination, and we know that Odin took up the runes in the Have 'em All story, but we can't say for certain that all three of those things lead to the runes that we have now. And let alone that the runes such as algies, does algies actually mean protection? Does urus actually mean strength? Who actually had the authority to say these things? Because it doesn't seem like it came from the Viking era or before that the runes got these meanings. It seems like it came later. So I think that really leaves us in a tough spot as people practicing in this modern age of, using the runes for divination and, using them for spell work or what have you. So that's why I'm sharing this video and making this video, is in hopes in sharing my struggles with the runes so that it may help you along your path. And let me tell you, it's been a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, doesn't happen, over a week. The runes are a lifelong study and a lifelong journey, and you're going to go through many ups and downs. So I think it was right after the rune video I just made last time, like the community questions. I did a lot of research for that video, and obviously asked my rune teacher about the runes, and I felt empty after making that video, because after doing the research is when I found out all this information that the runes that we know and the runes how we use them may not even be real, and it might just all be made up. And it's like, is it all just a gnosis and a psychosis in our head, where we think that the runes have meaning, that we think that Othala means ancestry, that we think that Pertho means celebration and gathering? Who gave the runes these names and these meanings? And it seems to be, a multi-generational evolution of the runes. And it seems to have come hundreds of years later after the Viking era, or at least not recorded until hundreds of years later. And so that's one of the first things that I had to get over, is the fact that most likely the meanings of the runes that we have now are not the meanings that they would have carried if they were used for divination. That's a hard pill to swallow, because then it means like, well, why even, then it's not real, right? It can't be real if it's just made up by humans. And I think that's the hardest thing to push through, is the thought that it's all just made up. That the divination properties of even things like tarot and the runes are really all just mental. That when you see something like Wunyo, you're like, oh, that means joy. That means I'm going to have a good day. And then you just jumpstart your mind into having a good day, because you're like, oh, the runes said I'm going to have a good day, so therefore I'm going to have a good day. And that's something that I definitely struggled with. It's like, oh, well, I'm reading the runes, it's just making me think about it, therefore I'm actually going to do it, or I'm going to be more cautious. Like if I see Helgelaz or Isaz, I'm going to be more cautious that day because the runes told me I should be cautious. And it wasn't really until I started thinking about what magic really is and what it is to, feel the energies of the universe, feel what guides us, that it really helped me get past that first step, that first hurdle. Because, when we communicate with the gods, I mean, at the end of the day, what are we doing? We're sitting in front of an altar or a beautiful piece of nature, and we're trying to connect to an energy. We're trying to connect to Odin or Freyr or Thor or Frigg. We're trying to connect to that being. And so, but really, logistically, all we're doing is sitting down, talking, sharing, pouring a beverage into the ground, or pouring a beverage into a bowl. We look quite silly. But at the same time, we do it because it has meaning, because we feel something. And I think that's when I started really thinking about what this faith is. At the end of the day, anyone could argue that what we're doing is all just in our heads. But we do it because we know it's not. And that's the same thing with the runes, is that the more I use them, the more I realize that it's not just making me think, oh, it's going to be a happy day. That it actually is showing me what my day is going to be like. And it gives almost like a security. Like, you know, I went on a hike, you know, a pretty strenuous hike not too long ago, and I pulled some runes beforehand to see, all right, is this going to be a good hike? Is it going to be a bad hike? And it was, you know, very, very good looking. You know, it was, you know, saying that we're going to, you know, struggle, but also have energy and have a journey and, you know, and have a celebration. And sure enough, the hike went well. You know, it was this very strenuous hike. By the end, we were, you know, charged full of energy and all these good things. You know, so for that instance, the runes were correct. And I think the more that you start to use them, the more you realize that the runes themselves do actually have some form of magical property. I think the second struggle I had with the runes is the amount of books written about them. Now, normally in Norse paganism, we have the problem of too little books being written about certain subjects, or too little information about certain deities or certain things within the faith or the mythology. But with the runes, we have too damn many. And the reason that is a problem is because it's hard to find credible and reliable sources. Now, it seems like you can see a lot of common threads between multiple writers. There is no one source on the runes, and I feel like a lot of the people writing about runes think that they're the only source on runes. And so it can be really hard to find one that is, you know, both just trying to educate you without trying to push, you know, motives or agendas down your throat at the same time. The thing that got me through this is just, you know, understanding that no one is going to have 100% the right answer, that no one tells you the only way to read the runes, to divinate the runes, the interpretations of the runes. There is no one right way. And I don't, you know, just like with anything in this faith, I don't really trust anyone that says they know the way. There is a way, and many people have a way of doing things, but, you know, really you're going to find what works for you through the multiple different sources out there. Like I, you know, joke about in my my rune video, my answering community questions, I was taught the method of the wooden spoon, the smack. I don't have it with me. But, you know, it's a very aggressive form of teaching the runes in the sense that, you know, it's a very rigorous study. And you're going to find so many different ways, and, you know, you're going to have to find what works for you. So just don't be afraid to explore, find many different things. It took me over 2 years to find the method that works for me, and it might take you just as long, or if not longer, to find what works for you. My third struggle with the runes was bind runes. Because, again, this is something I feel like a lot of us attach to the moment we begin walking this path, is because they're cool. I mean, shoot, there's a bind rune on the start of this page. It's the symbol of the Wisdom of Odin. It's something I made for the page. For those wondering, it's algis, Othala, and Manaz. And I also have a, you know, I have a bind rune on my arm. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, Wardruna uses a bind rune. Oseen the Jupiter uses a bind rune. You know, it's like, are they magical? Do they have magical properties? I mean, it's the same argument with the divination issue, is does it actually work? And this I'm still exploring a little bit within my own practice. Like, yes, again, the Wisdom of Odin symbol, you know, it looks cool. I like it. It's similar to the Web of Weird. I like, you know, I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, I got it right here. There's the Wisdom of Odin symbol right there. And, you know, same thing with the bind rune in my arm, is I got them because I thought they would have some form of magical property, and maybe they do. But I almost feel like that it's so subtle that we don't notice, that maybe we wouldn't notice if we didn't do them or didn't have those symbols. The way I am now, you know, where I'm at now with the bind runes in particular, is that when we make these symbols out of things like, you know, the Wisdom of Odin symbol, you know, Manaz, Othala, and algis, I use this to represent what the Wisdom of Odin stands for. And so as that, you know, it stands as a symbol. It's a symbol of what the Wisdom of Odin is. But is it actually magical? I'm not so sure, but I believe they can stand as very powerful symbols and statements to what we actually truly care about. So in the last section of this video, I want to talk about how I use the runes now. So I've had these struggles, I've gone through it, you know, multiple times as far as like how I use them, how often I use them, but how do I use them now? Where is Jacob at in 2021, February 2nd, or whatever day it is? And what am I using the runes for now? Do I do a daily pool? At times I do. You know, I'll simply reach into my rune bag and I'll pull one rune out, you know. And when I do it, you know, I always take a moment, stick my hand in, close my eyes, and really think about the day ahead of me, what I have to do, and I'll feel what calls to me. And I'll pull it out. Swallow. I like that rune. And it's a small little thing, you know, it's not this big, you know, you don't feel the magic of the universe like swirling around you as you pull your one rune for the day. But it's a reflection. I really like pulling a singular rune as a reflection. And if I'm about to go on a journey or something like that, I'll actually go in and I'll find the 3 runes to represent the journey, to give a more complete answer to what I am going through that day. You know, so I'll pull 3 out. I've experimented a little bit more with actually throwing the runes, because this is something that, the Germanic people seem to have done, at least according to Tacitus, is, taking the bones of the lots, throwing them onto a cloth, and seeing what stands out, and that would be the divination. So I've been practicing with that a little bit more. It's a little bit more methodical, like therapeutic in a way, because I kind of like, the shaking of the runes and then letting them go, and seeing what calls out to you. It's nice, and again, I feel like it connects me to an ancient past in a way. So those are the things I'm kind of working on with my divination process. And again, this isn't the only way to divinate with the runes, and it might not be the way you do them. Or I know people that do 12 rune pools, and they do, and I've seen past, present, and future with the 3 rune pools, like a Norn pool. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and again, you're going to find what works for you. And again, I'm seeing what works. Oh my gosh, I want to show this with you. Look at that. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. There's this, like, the lightest bit of snow, like, falling down. Okay, sorry for the distraction. That's the photographer and the pagan in me all at once, as I saw something beautiful and I'm like, I have to capture this while it still exists. I love winter so very much. It is the most hauntingly beautiful season. Anyway, it was runes. But yeah, I think that's actually about all I had with the struggles in the runes. Hopefully you can see that it's hard to talk about it because, I've never wanted to come off as someone that knows everything on this channel, and that's why I want to make videos like this. Like, I don't know everything. Like, I've made introductions to the rune videos, I've made like how-to guides and things like that, but I struggle. I struggle with things in this faith all the time. In particular, the runes have been a struggle for the last 6 months or so, ever since I made that introduction to the runes video. There might be times in your life you give the runes up for months, years, but eventually you might pick them back up. And I think there's always something to learn about them, and always something to dive a little bit deeper. And I think that's truly the magic of the runes, is that they have fascinated people for hundreds and hundreds of years, possibly even thousands. And that's the light at the end of the tunnel, is that the reason I think we know the meanings of these runes is because so many people have done research on them. So many people have pulled algaes and realized that it means protection, that it connects ourselves to even, to me, I look at algaes and I think of Yggdrasil. And especially if you have algaes inverted onto each other, as above, so below kind of thing, like the world tree. And these are things that, I think about. And it might not be something that's recorded in a book, but other people have also shared that idea with me, is that algaes, put together like that could represent Yggdrasil, could represent the branches and the roots. And you have 3 roots, the three wells right there. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Think about that. So I'm going to try to put it right here. So you got, algae inverted on each other, the 3 going up top and then 3 going down below. So the 3 wells and then the 3 branches going up. And then if you put 2 more on the side like that, you basically have the world tree, because then you can have, 8 points and then Midgard in the center. So maybe. And this is kind of the fun exploration of the runes, that it seems like a lot of people have taken a lot of time. The rune studies have been going on for hundreds of years. And it seems like every time someone studies them for a long time, we find a little bit more about them as these sacred symbols of both the Norse faith, but also of the world. And it seems like these symbols are really tied to the fabric of the universe in a really weird way. And I think that's what makes them very exciting, but also what makes them very complicated. So take your time with it. Don't let the runes, understand that you're going to go through many phases of the runes. I'm going through many phases of the runes, and it's going to be a long journey for me. And it's going to take a lifetime. The runes really do. And clearly many people have written many books about the runes for that very reason. But folk, let's go ahead and close out this video. And until the hall, let's go. Hello! If you like the Wisdom of Odin, please think about liking, subscribing, and commenting down below, even sharing your rune stories a little bit. And if you would like more Wisdom of Odin content, please think about supporting the Patreon, where you can have access to certain things like the community Discord. You can have access to early access videos, and even potentially have the name in the credits, which you just saw. I couldn't do this without all of you and without the support of the community, so thank you all very much for watching these videos and supporting on Patreon if you do. And until the hall, Skull. Oh, and also, go outside.